So last week, we went to a bunch of slides, right? So this week, what we're going to do is we're going to look at more practical use cases and examples. So we will, and I will also be walking you through some of the tools that are available. And these are the tools that we will need for um, for our workshop in future, right? Because next week we have the generative art workshop. And what's the date? What's the date on which we have it? Sorry. So next week, which is 7th, we have the generative art workshop, right? So I'll just be introducing you guys quickly to the tools for that as well. And we will take a look at these things. And so today's session, we don't really have like any slides, right? So I'm just going to walk you through some of these things and go from there. So just yesterday, we actually hosted an event here for SF Tech Week. So Anderson Horowitz, they host an event called LA Tech Week. They started it last year, which is like an unconference. And then this year, they expanded it to San Francisco, LA, and New York. So at San Francisco, we hosted an event called Web3 Insights from Founders, Creators, Investors, right? So one of the key things coming out of it, especially the founder session, was when you talk to people, right? When you talk to people about Web3, many people don't know what Web3 is. So I had on the panel a founder who was employee number one, who was employee number one at at Facebook India. And she grew Facebook India right under her. So she was head of Facebook India for about 6 years. And then after that, she moved to SoftBank and became their first investment partner at SoftBank. And now she is working as a startup founder in the Web3 space. So one of the most important things, one of the headliners, I would say, she said was, when they were looking at growing adoption of Facebook in India, she said she would ask people, hey, do you use the internet? And there were people who said, no, we don't know what the internet is, or we don't use it. And then when she asked them, um, are you guys on Facebook? And they were like, yes, we use Facebook, right? And obviously, to use Facebook, you had to use internet. But the most important thing coming from that is for a lot of people, it doesn't matter, right? That what is the underlying platform that's being used? They care a lot about the value proposition. So similarly, when you look at NFTs, right? You look at NFTs and you're like, okay, you go and tell people, oh, here's an NFT. First of all, many of them might not know what an NFT is. And it's very true for other things in crypto in the Web3 space as well. So when you talk to them, what is extremely important is the value proposition, right? You lead with the value proposition. So now, yes, we all have heard about NFTs. Most of us have heard about NFTs in news where we have seen artists make money from NFTs, or we've just heard some random person become a millionaire by launching an NFT collection and whatnot, right? The question is, um, do enough people in the world understand that, or is are we or is it just overwhelming for them, right? Because if you lead by saying, hey, here's a cool non-fungible token, and they're like, okay, wait, but what is a non-fungible token? And they might not even know about the blockchain, right? So with that being said, today we are going to talk about the future of NFTs, right? So when we're looking at the future of NFTs, we're really going to be looking at some of the practical use cases in which NFTs are being used, right? And then after that, we will look at some of the tools and we'll see how could we leverage those tools to create something nice, especially in terms of the artwork, right? So the focus of the generative art workshop would be for people who are looking to create small and large collections, right? So we're going to tackle generative art from two perspectives. The first one being generative AI for creating one-of-one art pieces. And the second would be how can you use generative AI? And even though it's called generative AI, there isn't a lot of AI in it. The first part where I said for creating one-of-one pieces, you actually have LLMs that are being used, right? LLMs stand for large language models, and they are used with transformers. These are AI-specific terms, but you can go and Google them up. LLM is essentially just your Chat GPT, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard about Chat GPT, used it. The T in the Chat GPT stands for the transformer, and it starts with general purpose transformer, right? So in Chat GPT works with words, right? So you can use it to create text. So it's a large language model for text, but similarly, you also have LLMs for images. So we'll be exploring some LLMs for images. And then the other portion, even though we call it generative art, it's not necessarily that a generative, where an LLM is being used, but it is programming, right? So what you're able to do is just create multiple permutations and combinations. And that is how most of the PFP, right? So when we say PFP, it stands for profile picture. And most of the PFP projects are created using that. And we'll talk about it. Okay, I'm going to show you some of the startups, etc., that I have come across. So these are like practical use cases which people are looking at right now, right? With tokens or with NFTs. But one of the things people have been looking at using NFTs for is real estate. So as we say, right, practical use cases of NFTs. So we'll look at some of those use cases. One of them is real estate. Now, this is a company, a Bonfire. The founder actually, the two companies I want to show you for real estate, they live in the Bay Area. I am not from New York. I'm from Bay Area, from California. So, but I also obviously spend time at New York because that's where a lot of NFT artists are. In the Bay Area, there is a difference, right? So when I go to Los Angeles and when I go to New York, I do see a lot more NFT art use cases. Whereas when I'm in the Bay Area, there are a lot more enterprise use cases, right? So that's what I'm going to be looking at. Oh, all right. Three-letter acronyms. Yeah, that's right, Anushka. Okay, so coming here, right? So Bonfire, the way Bonfire works is it allows you to actually get ownership in real estate, in commercial real estate. So for folks in the audience, right? Let me ask you, how many of you invest in commercial real estate? Anyone over here who does that? No, okay. Do you feel like it is easy for someone to invest in commercial real estate? Because, obviously the costs are much higher, right, than just going and buying a house. When you talk about commercial real estate, you're talking about things that you can make money from, right? Which means buying like multi-family houses or big apartment complexes, the cinema house, a marketplace that can be rented out, right? So, and folks, feel free to unmute and chat, okay? So that way I'm not the only one whose voice you're hearing the entire time, because that gets boring quickly. So that is hard, right? And sorry, someone's trying to join in. So okay, that's Sakina. I'm just admitting her. Okay. So what Bonfire does is it actually allows you to invest in fractional real estate. Okay. Now, fractional real estate by itself is not necessarily a Web3 concept, right? However, when it comes to fractional real estate, so first of all, what does fractional real estate mean? Anyone wants to take a stab at it? And please unmute, okay, so it's easier. When you hear the term fractional real estate, what comes to mind? And just feel free to unmute and speak up. Zai, Daniela, Tandy, Jerry, Sakina, and I know Sakina just came in. Hi, Sakina. Yes, Zai.
You called my name at first. I felt I was supposed to go. I assume fraction real estate is like people take a portion of the responsibility. So it's like one big loan, but multiple people can take a fraction of that loan and pay it off over time. And then
Right.
the profits flipped gets returned to them equally or something. Yeah.
That's that's right. So they don't necessarily take a loan, though they kind of invest in smaller chunks, right? So it's like saying, you can see this little yeah, no, this is not the one. But basically what happens is, let's say a house is $1 million, right? So let's just assume that there are 100 people, right? 100 people that pool in $1,000 each. So it is just like buying stocks of a company, right? Similarly, fractional real estate essentially are like buying, like creating stocks of a house and then allowing multiple people to buy it. Generally, in commercial real estate, where the funds are higher, when you convert it into fractional real estate, right? What happens is it makes investing more accessible. Because if you have to pay $1 million, that's a lot of money. But now, if someone tells you that, hey, you just have to pay $1,000, suddenly that makes things more accessible, right? Now, obviously, $1,000 in a lot of parts of the world is still a lot of money, but we are talking about real estate locally. So, even the amounts that we're talking about, it would change locally, right? Now, with NFTs, if you think about it, here's the thing, right? Every little share in that NFT, especially when it is a real estate, it is something unique, because generally what happens, hey, Sakina, you had something to ask? Oh, no.
Sorry, no
Okay.
apologies.
No, that's fine. I just heard you typing, so I was wondering if you had something to ask. So what happens here is each little token has a separate deed to it, right? Typically, when you're working with stocks are more like fungible tokens. You exchange the stocks, same value, right? But in this case, what happens is you also have a real estate deed associated with it. And the ownership on each of that deed has to be tracked separately, right? So in this case, NFTs, Web3, they provide a very good foundation, a very good infrastructure to build upon, right? So generally what happens is you fractionalize it, and then each fraction is sold as an NFT. So this is like, one of those real world use cases, right? Fractional NFTs, fractional real estate. And what you're doing is each title, each of that $1,000 is actually being sold as an NFT, right? And in this case, it actually becomes more than non-fungible token. It is something like a semi-fungible token. So there is a difference. Last week when we spoke about it, we spoke about non-fungible tokens, and then we spoke about semi-fungible tokens, right? So let's go to OpenSea. OpenSea is the largest marketplace. Well, you also have Blur, but OpenSea is the largest NFT marketplace even now in terms of trading volume. So if you look at OpenSea, let's open up fractional, like, just a regular NFT, right? So let's open this one up, because it's just the first collection that we see up here on our page. Oh, they are not revealed yet. Okay, never mind. Let's just go to DGOTS. Okay, so when you look at this, first of all, this is a PFP collection. Okay, what you mean by PFP is you can use it as your profile picture. So a lot of people just love to use something cool for their profile picture on Instagram or on Twitter, right? So this project DGODS, it actually moved over to Ethereum from Solana, right? And so you can see the artwork that they have. Now, not everybody might always be a fan of what you see, right? But these guys, they have a very strong community. And more importantly, when these people came together as a community, it wasn't just about getting, like, some PFP project going. But the thing that they're trying to solve is they're also trying to empower their community members to get something cool, to become a part of something cool, right? So here, every piece that you see, there is a common theme tying them all. But what's important is every single piece here is actually unique. So you will not see any two pieces that are exactly alike. Yes, they might look similar, but they won't be exactly the same. So these are completely non-fungible, right? Where each piece is just one of its kind. And yes, I mean, it's even though some of them might look similar, but none of them are exactly the same. Like these two guys, obviously, similar skin structure, but different clothes, and so on and so forth. Somebody just uttered my name. Did you have a question?
Yes, hi Sonia, it's Jerry. I
Yeah.
Thanks again. But this I've been noticing this DeGods really took off, especially since NFT NYC. And I'm curious why they moved from Solana to ETH.
So these people, they launched as a project, and when they launched, right, when DeGods launched, Solana was okay. Right, let's look at this first, right? Okay. So on October 8th, 2021, right? This was again at the peak of NFT. When they launched, they sold it for 3 Sol, right? And they raised a lot of money after that. As you can see that, here it's 850. And if you go to at its last time, right, when they were on the Solana marketplace, they definitely had pretty solid floor price. Floor price in an NFT collection is, hold on, what do you see here, right? Floor price. It's like the stock market's floor price, right? Which is if you have to buy any one piece in the NFT collection, what is the minimum amount that you have to pay? Unlike stock market where you could buy multiple pieces at that price, in NFT, because each one of them is unique, right? So it's like, hey, I have a Pikachu, I have a Bulbasaur. I want, instead of saying I want $100 for each, right? People might have a different price point in mind for a Pikachu because it's the hero of the show versus a Bulbasaur, right? Which is still in Ash's Pokédex and makes a lot of show appearances, but is not technically the hero of the show, right?
Sure.
So this is what you pay at a minimum. Now, when DeGods launch, okay, Solana to USD price history. And remember, as you can see, they have like, yeah, let me click on this. Let me click on one of them because you don't see it here. Now here they just have a 0.5% creator earning, right? Which means that every time this is resold, these guys get 0.5% from it. Now 0.5% isn't really a lot. When they launched, at that time, I think it was 5% royalties. Okay. So with every sale, they would also collect 5% royalty. What that means is the first time these items were sold, they collected 3 Sol for each item sold. They sold 10,000, right? So they collected 30,000 Solana when they sold. But after that, let's say, if I bought it for 3 Sol and I just sold it for 100 Sol, okay? So when I resell it, so I bought it, I was the owner, and I resold it for 100 Sol, 5 Sol out of that would go to the creators, which was the DeGods team, right? So these guys made a lot of Solana. But what happened, and let's, take a look at this. Oh, yeah. So let's look at the 3-year chart, right? So they launched somewhere over here, right, in October, as you know. And then after that, when they were again trading, at this time, Solana prices were between 150 to 241, right? And in the US, and the owner of DeGods, Frank, is actually based on the US in the US. You end up paying taxes on the US dollar price equivalent of the crypto that you have collected at the time of sale. So these guys owed like 30 to 40% taxes at prices of Solana that was anywhere between 160 to like $260. They ended up paying more in taxes than what the collection is sort of like, worth right now. So at the moment, Solana is $20. So one of the reasons why they moved over was just because, unfortunately, Solana took a major hit after FTX went down. And I don't know how many of you know about FTX, but FTX was a centralized exchange by Sam Bankman-Fried, and they did not manage their funds well. There were also misappropriations of the funds, and it was an exchange that traded about 8 billion. It was worth, or they had a treasury of over $8 billion, or $8 billion in funds and custodian funds that they were handling, and those were mismanaged. And that entire exchange went down and people lost a lot of money. When that happened, FTX had investments in other chains and in other projects in the ecosystem. In fact, they had investments in over 300 plus projects in the ecosystem. And FTX held like about 5 to 10% of Solana. Now, this is not surprising because even in Ethereum, today, 60% of the staked Ethereum is owned by exchanges like Coinbase, Kraken, Binance. However, when FTX went down, because they had such a big stake in Solana, unfortunately, Solana got hit. And the price, as you can see, they're trying to recover since then. At one point, Solana's price even went to like $8. People were like, oh, it's never going to recover from that. Now, for a while, it has remained steady at $20. But when the decision to move was made, that time Solana was like, just having a free fall, unfortunately. So this is again speculation. I haven't obviously spoken to Frank about it, but this is one of the reasons why it seems like they moved over, because Ethereum has more stability in terms of the price point. So here, you can see that Solana is down by 90%, more than 90% from its peak price. And if I look for Ethereum, right, and I do a 3-year price max, even Ethereum is, oh, this is some, okay. Ethereum price history. I'm sorry. Just give me a minute. What am I connected to? Okay. All right, guys, I'm just going to switch over my computer, so I might glitch for a second. Oh, yeah. So it's a little smaller, yeah, but if we look at, let's say, 5-year history, right? So as you can see, obviously Ethereum had a very good rise here, right? At its highest point. And is this, oh no, this is oh, come on. Okay, I'm just going to go to coin market cap. I'm not going to waste time Googling it. Let's do that. Okay, so let's go to coin market cap. Let's click on Ethereum here. And then let's look at they don't have 3-year, unfortunately, but let's just look at all, right? So here, what you can see is Ethereum at its highest point was around 4,500, right? And this is again in October, November, right? Everything was really having a boom then. And today it's like close to 1,900. So compared to obviously Solana, Ethereum has had better price action. I mean, obviously from its peak, it's still down by 60%, right? However, Solana is down by over 90%, right? And the recovery, when these guys decided to move, the recovery seemed very, yeah, you did not know, how well that would be. At that time, Ethereum at its lowest low has gone down to around close to $900, which is like 20% of its peak value. But Solana was down to $8, which is not even like, or yeah, it's probably like 5%, lesser than 5% of its value at its peak, which was $260. So this is just speculation, but that's one of the reasons why they're saying DeGods probably moved. They did not just take over after NFT and YC. Maybe they came to Ethereum, so you started hearing more about them, but they have been around for a couple of years now. As you know, they launched in 2021. They launched another collection which was called Utes, and that is another collection through which a lot of people got to know about them. Utes is actually on Solana. Sorry, it's on Polygon. So as you can see, you have Utes Solana here, and then you have the actual Utes collection, and they had ported that over. So they ported DeGods to Ethereum, and they ported Utes over to Polygon. So they moved both of their collections from Solana to different chains. But yeah, I don't know if this exactly answers your question, because like I told you, I am not exactly sure of all the reasons, but there's speculation that this is one of the reasons why they moved. So when you are selling your NFTs, guys, that's one thing to keep in mind. When you're looking at things like cryptocurrency, right? Unfortunately, right now, cryptocurrencies are quite volatile. Over a longer term, people expect cryptocurrencies to stabilize a bit, especially as cryptocurrencies become more mainstream. But right now, what's happening is a lot of people look at cryptocurrencies as investments. So the market is highly volatile and keeps changing, right? So many people, there are two ways in which people, when they sell their collection, this is how they look at it. I have some friends, even in the Web3 space, which think about the dollar equivalent of what they're selling, right? So they're like, okay, if I sell this in Sol and I want to collect 100 Solana, right? How much do I need to sell it for? And they'll be like, okay, we'll sell it for 5 Solana, for example, right? Because Solana is $20 now. And there are others who are like, and what they will do is as soon as they sell, they will also convert that 5 Solana into US dollars because they need the money. Or they don't, they are very risk averse and they are not going to wait for the price of Solana to go down, for example, right? But then there are others who look at it like, oh, at its peak, Solana was $260. So I will just sell it for like 5 So now, but I don't need the money right away. And I'll just wait for it to recover. But remember that these people also run the risk of Solana again going down and the total dollar value going down, but they are happy to assume risk because again, this is like, a high risk, high reward, right? So when you are thinking about the strategies for selling your NFT collection, and I know we probably in the next 1 or 2 sessions at least, we are not really going to talk so much about how do you sell your collection. However, that is important that you figure out what is important to you, right? And we'll talk about those things later on, but yeah, that's one of the important things to consider. Are you going to be collecting the money right away, and do you need the money right away, or can you sit on it? And if you sit on it, are you able to survive even if you lose money? Yeah, Cherry, question?
No, that's about it. This has been very insightful.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I hope it made sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So as we go back into, oh, sorry. So before I go there, we were talking about semi-fungible tokens, right? So let's open this one, right? So Youths also similar to DeGods, each one, even though they have a similar look, none of them, like, no two of them are exactly the same, right? They all have some difference. So now with that being said, let's look at what semi-fungible token is, right? It's built on top of, so in Ethereum terms, ERC-721 is used for NFTs. And then you have another protocol called ERC-1155 that is used for semi-fungible tokens. So this one is an example of a semi-fungible token. What does it exactly stand for, right? So let's look at this. So what Adidas did was when they launched this collection, which was called Into the Metaverse, they every person who bought the NFT originally, they were able to get an exclusive Adidas merch drop as well. So this is what you call phygitals, right? So phygitals means physical plus digital. All right. So that combined together, you have the term phygital. What they essentially did was they said that, okay, if you buy this NFT, we will also send you limited edition Adidas merchandise. So this merchandise would not be made for anyone else besides the buyers of this NFT. So even the merchandise is a limited edition merchandise. And for the first buyers of the NFT, you will also get access to, getting that merchandise items would also be shipped to you. So what they did was they just created one NFT, and this is the artwork of that one NFT that you see here. Okay. And every person got that same NFT. All right, that's why it's called a semi-fungible token, because here it's not exactly one of one, but it is one of token ID, and let's just see how many owners are there. Oops. I think it was a 10,000 drop. So, oh, sorry, 5,000, 6.4K items, 6,400 items of the same thing, right? So that's why it is semi-fungible. So it is still rare in the aspect that, hey, you only have 64,000 items ever made, right? So it is rare in that aspect. However, it's 6,400 copies sort of the same item. So that's one of the main differences between NFTs and SFTs, which are semi-fungible tokens, because semi-fungible still indicates rarity. However, it's like, X number of copies of the same item. So generally, the ERC-1155 concept came out from the gaming world, because a lot of the times in the gaming world, like in Roblox also, right, or Minecraft, etc., you'll have this concept of collectible items, right, items that could lend you some power, etc., right, some power-ups. So let's say there is a weapon, and this is like a special weapon which gives you a special power, but you only have like 5,000 of those weapons, right? So it becomes desirable and rare, but it's not exactly an NFT because not each one of those weapons is a unique copy. However, you still just have 5,000 copies of the same piece. So that is what an SFT is. However, the term SFT hasn't really taken off. So people still call this an NFT, right? Because that is mainstream. But for our purposes, I'm just introducing that term so you understand the technical difference between the two. But in reality, as you're talking to people, all of them, they will just call this an NFT. Nobody really uses the term SFT, but there is that underlying difference between the two. So it still indicates rarity. So the reason why I brought something like this up is because this is what your real estate tokens are also like, right? Now, remember, there is just one house. Okay, so when you get that NFT, you aren't exactly getting, so first of all, there will only ever be like X number of fractions of a house, right? Because there's just that one house. But then what you're getting as an NFT is something similar to this non-fungible token, because these tokens, you're not splitting them further, right? You're not doing any of the stock market thing that you can do where you're just splitting the tokens and splitting stocks, right? Consolidating it and so on. You don't do anything like that. However, let's say, in our case, as we said, 1,000 people putting in $1,000 each, right? That allows us to buy a house worth $1 million. And each of those 1,000 people technically own like an NFT of the house, which is similar to this. Okay. Now, this is what you need to understand about multiple copies of the same object However, there are just a limited number of copies, so it still makes it desirable. One of the things that I want to mention here is when these guys fractionalized the real estate and sold it off, and they have actually sold houses. They have sold real houses using this. They were able to raise more money than from a typical sale, because fractionalizing a house just made it that much more desirable for a lot of smaller people to come and invest in. So when they sold it, that house was based on the comps of the house, if they had just sold it to an individual, versus when they sold it by fractionalizing it, they made more money by fractionalizing it and democratizing access to buying a part of that house to multiple people. Okay, that's just one thing. And it's not something that they really aimed for. They knew that it might be more. Okay, that is something that they had predicted, but that wasn't the sole purpose with which they were fractionalizing it. Okay. However, because more people were able to invest, the value of the house was also higher. Now, similarly, here's another company in real estate that's using NFTs. The way they are different, though, from what we saw here is these guys just do like, real NFTs. Real NFTs, as in, each of their NFT is completely unique. And first of all, this company, they started as a company which would only issue titles, housing titles as NFTs and maintain record of that. If you think about it, every single house on earth is actually an NFT, just like each one of us is an NFT, because there are no two human beings who are exactly the same. The concept of even human clones and stuff is just in the movies right now. But even if you had someone who was exactly the same as you, even coming from your genes, as as human beings, as we evolve, we change, right? So you don't really have any two people who are exactly the same. Genetically, they might be, right? But still, mentally, right, their habits, no two people are exactly the same. So when you think about housing titles, now you might have 2 or 3 houses or even more that have the exact same floor layout. However, each one of them is unique, because if you buy house A, you cannot just go and exchange it for house B and say, oh, it's still the same house. The value of a house depends on so many things, like, hey, the location where it is, right? Let's say I buy a house in the US, in California, and then I buy a house in Nigeria, for example, right? And I buy a piece of land, I buy a house, and it's exactly the same. But the house in the US will be worth a different price than the house that's in Nigeria, right? Because even though they are the exact same floor plan, and maybe I even use the same builder to build both of them out, the location makes a difference too. And it's not just difference in pricing, but everything's different, right? So you can't just say that, oh, this is my house, this is my neighbor's house. If we exchange our property deeds, it's still the same. No, right? Different addresses, different, like my house right now is at a stop sign. And then other houses on the street, like our house, it would be priced just a little bit lesser because it's right at a stop sign, right? Whereas if I just cross the street and then there are houses there, they would be priced slightly higher because they are not at a stop sign, they are on an internal road. Okay, so real estate, especially titles of houses on as NFTs, is a use case that many people are working on. What NFCO does differently, though, is, as you can see, they are like, saying that, hey, we want to become the Carfax of real estate. So what they do is, besides just having the deeds on blockchain, so you can see the history of how ownership in a certain property changed hands, they also take everything around a house. So everything which relates to any upgrades that are made, any maintenance events, right? Any insurance events. They're taking all of those records and putting it on blockchain. So let's say, I am selling a house and someone, let's say Jerry is buying that house, right? Jerry can look on chain and look at all of these records and get clear visibility into what was done, right? So you can see that they are taking all of those public records and just minting them as NFTs, because every maintenance action you take on it is a different maintenance action, right? Different point in time, something else that happened. So again, that is like a real world use case of how NFTs are being used. So they take all of those records, right? And they create NFTs out of them. And when they do that, it's not just the second owner of the house who gets access to all of this and really knows what happened at different points in time, but also as a renter, let's say, you want to rent a place. You can still see how well was the place maintained, what work was done on the place, right? And then you can make a decision whether you want to rent that place or not. So this is just one of those practical use cases in NFTs. Now, we did spend a lot of time between explaining this, but I hope that this particular example, right, it helped you understand some of the real world use cases. And for the rest of it, I will not be opening up newer sites, but I'm just going to talk to you about some other use cases that are being worked on. So last week, I think, or last session, I did talk about NFTs being used in Santa Clara County. So Santa Clara County is a county again in the Bay Area. They are working with Tezos, which is a different blockchain, just like Cardano, Ethereum, Bitcoin. And they're working with Tezos to issue car titles as NFTs, right? Again, each car is unique, even though there would be 10 cars that look exactly the same. They all have separate VIN numbers, right? So each car is unique, ownership records for each car, and the history that each car sees, how many miles you've driven, etc. Again, all of that is unique. So they are implementing, again, this as NFTs. So that's another use case. Besides that, if you think about it, anything that requires unique records to be recorded, tracked, NFTs give you an infrastructure out of the box that you can build on. So many people have also used it for like membership clubs, loyalty programs. Starbucks, right? That's a big company. Starbucks introduced NFTs to their loyal members. So people could collect NFTs for different events, and people have actually been trading the Starbucks NFTs, right? Starbucks NFTs. So people have actually been trading these. I think it would let's see. Not this one. Maybe look at the. So, people were able to connect NFTs, and they have also been trading these NFTs, as you can see, right? And here you can see that even their NFTs, this was like, a one-of-one collection, and you can recognize the siren from Starbucks logo itself, right? So this was the collection, and their loyal customers were able to actually buy the NFT. And as you can see, many of them have not really traded the NFT because a lot of these people were actually not Web3 native people, right? So they just collected it as, oh, this is something cool, right? They loved the artwork. They were like, oh, this is nice, and I'm getting it from my favorite coffee shop. I'm going to collect it. But then there were also people who were able to sell it for like half an ETH, which is like, $900 or more. You can imagine that, that was like the price of a single cup of Starbucks coffee 150 times over, right? So a lot of people were able to like sell it and make money from it, whereas a lot of other people were like, oh, this is something cool. It's a collectible. I'm getting it from my favorite coffee shop, right? This is something cool that I can collect. So a lot of businesses also using NFTs to build better customer relationships and to help their customers not just on board to the world of NFTs, but also build better loyalty programs, right? So people who hold these NFTs, they also get unlocked certain features. So I don't remember the exact features that these unlock, but you could say that, hey, if you own this blue siren, right, you can get 5% off on 10 coffee orders, or you get 5% off for the rest of your life, right? So people build loyalty programs around that. And again, Starbucks as a company already had an existing loyalty program, but if there are small businesses that want to launch membership and loyalty programs, they can build that on NFTs without having to hire a company to build an entire infrastructure for them, right? That is another important thing to note as well. NFT, the layer of Web3 NFTs as an infrastructure to quickly build on. Now, Reddit so far has given out, like, onboarded about 10 million people, I think, through their various avatars, right? So Reddit collectible avatars, these were the kind of avatars, and people, like, you can see this, right? I have a basic avatar here. Reddit created like a lot more avatars that based on how often a Redditor was on Reddit, some of them were able to claim. So 10,000 Redditors have gotten a lot of these different avatars, as you can see. And through that, Reddit has brought in about 10 million people into the world of Web3. So Reddit has done like a great job onboarding many people to Web3. And actually, a lot of the Reddit avatars do get traded quite a bit. But Reddit, again, they launched it on Polygon, right? And the first few avatars that they launched, those were being traded for like, I don't know, for like, a few hundred to even a couple of $1,000s, right? Like these were some of their earliest ones. And as you can see, it had like 1,000 ETH so far in total trading volume, right? And 1,000 ETH basically is $1,800 into 1,000. It's over 1.8 million, right, in trading volume. Right. So with this, we conclude like a section on, hey, the use cases of NFT, like practical use cases where NFT could be leveraged to build out your membership programs, any place where you need to track unique digital ownership records or real world ownership records that you want to log on blockchain. So there is transparency, right? It is audited. Now, why would people want to log it on the blockchain? First of all, blockchain by nature, it's transparent. But now you also have chains like ZK Sync. So ZK stands for zero knowledge. Like, when you looked at the property record, technically property records, even your maintenance records and stuff, maintenance records, well, maybe not, but everything else around a property is generally available publicly, right? It's just that the normal public folks don't know where to go and get it. But if you go to your city and you ask for records in a house and stuff, it's actually public information that you can put a request in with the city and you can get that, even if you're not the owner of the house, right? Whatever public information you need, you can get that. So similarly, when it comes to things like maybe even your health records, right? Now, you don't want your health records to be public. However, let's say you want to maintain your health record history on blockchain. Today, you don't really have avenues to do that. So anything that you hear, when you hear the word ZK, it actually stands for zero knowledge. And what that protocol essentially enables you to do is people will be able to see that you own XYZ health records, but unless you give someone the permission to view the contents of the record, they cannot view it. So zero knowledge is something that has been pushed forward, advanced now into the community to allow for privacy on blockchain, because in the past, we haven't really had privacy on blockchain. I mean, in one way, you would get privacy is that you did not know who is the owner of a certain wallet ID, right? So anonymity, privacy through anonymity. Here, when we talk about privacy, we're talking about privacy of the content of that transaction. So again, health records could also be built as NFTs, but I'm pretty sure nobody wants their health records being publicly visible, right? So for that, you built it on top of a zero knowledge chain, and it's infrastructure that is still being built on. So, probably in 2 years from now, we'll see a lot more of these applications practically coming out. But at the moment, right, with NFTs, because NFTs are publicly visible, right? People can use that for anything that's public knowledge. So you can use NFTs to track any of that. Membership reward programs, etc. You could use your NFTs for running your membership reward program. And as a small business, this actually provides you an easier way to build on chain. And Ethereum has higher gas fees, but you have so many different chains on which the gas fees are very low, and you can build on those chains. right? So what are gas fees? When you're building your own application, right, from scratch, you have to host it somewhere. So let's say you host it on AWS, right, on Amazon Web Services. There you will pay Amazon Web Services a fee to host it for you. Now, in the decentralized world, you have like 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, a million people running nodes, right? These are the people who are helping you basically host your application or host your contract or whatever when you deploy it on the blockchain, right? On TLTs. So then how do they get paid? That is where the concept of gas fees come in. So every time you're making a transaction, you have to pay a small portion to the people who are hosting this network for you, right? That is the simplest analogy. Now on Ethereum, because the network speed, and Ethereum is trying to upgrade where the fees become lesser. But right now on Ethereum, for every transaction you make, there's a pretty good chance you at least have to pay $1 for each transaction. And those costs pile up very quickly. And a lot of the times, it's not just $1. I mean, at one time when NFTs were really popular and the network was congested, people were paying, when Yuga Labs dropped their lands, people actually even paid like $7,000, $10,000 in just gas fees to buy it, right? So Ethereum gets expensive very quickly, but for your membership program, you have a lot of other options. You have chains like Cardano. Cardano gas fees are also very low. So it's just in a couple of cents. And you have chains like even Solana, actually, the gas fees are pretty low. You have chains like there are also gasless chains like Scale, Polygon gas fees are also low. So that's why, with Starbucks, as you can see, Starbucks NFT program was built on top of Polygon. Okay. So you don't have to necessarily use Ethereum, but you can build your membership programs on these other chains as well. Now, with that, I know we started a little late, so we have about, we'll go on for another 10 minutes and then we'll wrap this up. And in the next 10 minutes, what we are going to talk about is the tools that we will use for our NFT workshop next week, okay? So again, there are two things that we are going to talk about. True generative art using LLMs, right? Large language models. And the tools for that are tools like, so one of the tools that we have is like Midjourney, okay? So Midjourney works in Discord. How many of you have a Discord account? Guessing not many. Okay. So, all right, Anushka has one, but I'm guessing most of the folks don't. All right. So Midjourney, also one of the issues with Midjourney is that sometimes they actually have a free to access version where you can go into their server and create some designs for free. However, I think more recently they have cut down on the free stuff and you have to get an account. So I will show you some of the prompting from Midjourney, but there is another free tool that folks can use, and that's called Dolly, and it is by the creators of ChatGPT, right? OpenAI is the creator of ChatGPT, and we will also look at Dolly. Now, both Dolly, Midjourney, and then there is another tool called Stable Diffusion, and that's on my remote desktop. So we look at these three tools, but that is for creating one-of-one artwork, okay? And then the other thing that I need all of you to work on is I would require all of you to, or maybe what we could do is, I'm trying to see, what's our generative art learners? Okay, all right. So next week for the workshop, we'll do a workshop to follow along with. And we might not be able to finish all of our collections next week in an hour, but I need you guys to download the following tools, and I'll put it here in chat. Just look for PyCharm Community Edition. Okay, so we will be using Python, and the expectation is that all of you at least have some coding basics, even if you are not really a big coder, just be a little tech savvy, even that is fine. And we'll use this PyCharm Community Edition, right? It's an IDE for that's all right, Anushka. It doesn't have to be the coding, because if you have to modify it, you need to use a little bit of coding experience. But if you're not modifying it, using it out of the box, it's very simple to work with. So just look for PyCharm Community Edition next week when you come for the workshop. Keep that ready, right? We'll be working with that and we will create. So again, this generative art workshop, it's going to be for one-of-one. So how do you look at one-of-ones, right? I'll show you some of the paintings here, and then you can see what those one-of-one paintings look like. Now, Beeple is one of the very famous artists who has sold a lot of his artwork, right, as a one-of-one collection. Unfortunately, there are also a lot of impersonators who use his name. So yeah, when I go to OpenSea and look for it, it's actually, yep, not too great. And let me think about some other artists here. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I need to move things around. Sure, Jerry, we'll talk to you next week. Okay. So here in the collabs, what they did was, they launched individual artists. Okay, this is World of Women, very popular project, again, onboarding women into the space. So if you look at these, there isn't even like necessarily a common theme amongst the artwork, right? Because what they did was they provided a platform for women artists to come and like sell their work, and they promoted it to their community members. So these artists are generally known as one-of-one artists, right? Some of them you can see it's just photography. Some others have actually created digital artwork and then, sold each artwork as a one-of-one art piece, right? So tomorrow when we look at Midjourney, we are going to Midjourney or any of these other AI tools, we're going to look at how can you use them with some prompt engineering to create one-of-one art pieces like this on screen, right? And then we will also look at what we need PyCharm for is just the youth sort of thing, or as you all might have heard about this very popular project, right? Bored Ape Yacht Club. So how do you create a collection like this where, they are very similar and you just see like, some things that are changing? So for this, what you do is you have multiple layers. For creating layers, we are actually going to keep it very simple, right? And what we will do is we'll just create something very simple in Canva. And Canva is another free to use tool, right? So I'm going to put these things here. For Gen AI LLMs, we will look at Midjourney, Dolly, and we will look at Stable Diffusion. Now, all of these, just remember, except for Stable Diffusion, where it's slow, you run it one at a time. Dolly and Midjourney have some costs associated with it, but Dolly has a free tier where you get 15 credits every month. So you have that. And Midjourney used to have like a completely free membership structure where you could get like, a couple of things made every day, but now they're not giving out more free accounts. But I'll still show you what it looks like because Midjourney still has one of the best AI rendering engine. And then for generative NFTs, and it's not Gen AI, it's just called generative NFTs, you need the tools like PyCharm and Canva. However, when it comes to creating layers, technically tools like Photoshop or in fact even Adobe Illustrator, these are the best tools that you could use there. All right, so any questions, guys? Oh yeah. All right, so before you leave, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up Midjourney, right? So you have a little bit of an inspiration to see how things could look like. But in Midjourney, what you do is just you give an image prompt, right? You give a prompt and then you will get variations of image. So I'm just going to show that to you so you guys have something nice, cool to look forward to. Anyone in the audience, tell me, like, can you tell me something fun, cool that you would like to see an artwork created for? Anyone? Any ideas? Okay, a sunset. All right. So let's do this over here, right? And because there are so many females on the call right now, a sunset from Mars. Oh yeah, that's a nice one. Okay, so let's do this, right? Sunset from Mars, literally, right? That's exactly what I'm going to put in here. Sunset from Mars and a beautiful Martian alien woman standing against the sunset. Okay. And she has, like, let's say, flowing hair. Alien women with flowing hair. And then, yeah, okay, we'll just put that, right? And then let's see how Dolly imagines it. Sorry, not Dolly, there's Midjourney. So it takes a little bit of time before it starts, right? So it's just queuing objects up. Over here, they send the request to their server. Now, once they start working on it, you can see how much time it's taking, right? Let's see, it takes like about a minute at most, right? So it's at 15%. And they have a fast and slow mode. Once you get on the paid plan, you don't have access to the fast mode on the free plan. So on the free plan, it would be a little slower, but the paid plan actually starts with a very generous tier of fast processing. And it starts from, like, the free plan starts from, I think, $20 a month. Almost there, and you can see those layers, the image sharpening, right, becoming better. And here now you can almost see that image, the 4 images, and you can choose one of them basically. There we go, we have this ready. And I'm just going to click open on browser so you can look at each one of them. Imagine, if you had to commission an artist to work on something like this, how much time it would take. Looks good, huh? Right? See each one of them. Generally, it creates it in 1080 by 1080p format, right? So just look at it. And then whichever image you like. Let's see. Anushka shared this, right? Anushka, which image do you like? I'm going to just send this one as well as, like, an upscale version of that.
The bottom left.
Bottom left, right? Even I really like this one. So what you generally do, and this is already in 1080p, but you don't want to sit and crop it. So what you could do is you just upscale it over here, right? And it will give us, like, a full scale version of this bottom left image. It's just as simple, right? But remember what happens is, you can use this very well for creating one-of-one images. When it comes to creating, like, images with just like the PFP collection, then it becomes a little trickier, but it's not impossible, because one of the other things you could do with it, especially if you're making, like, maybe, let's say, 100 pieces that look similar, right? So if you like this, now you can create more variations of it. Now, showing that variation thing might take a little longer, but yes, you can create these different variations too. And I'm just going to click on view browser and also send this to Anushka. So with the variations, you will get things that are similar. So here you can see, right? It's again something very similar, but they would just be varied slightly. Okay. So that's how variations work, where you'll get some slightly varying, and there are other prompts through which you can actually add how much variation you want, right? So, but yes, you can get variations of something similar. So here you can see that they're hairstyle is like, a little different. Their posing is just a little bit different, but they are still very similar to the first image we saw. So this would be something fun to explore. Yeah. That's what we're going to look at next week. The Gen AI is for, again, mostly this one-of-one art. And then we will get our hands dirty with a little bit of coding, very easy coding, right? To create those different art layers. First, we will create some art layer. So one of the exercises I can tell you guys, if you want to do it as a homework, is on Canva or a tool of your choice. If you could create some layers, that would be great. Or, if you can create just one artwork, like, just have in mind that, let's even say we are going to make some smiley faces or something like that, right? So if you have something, if you have some time, try to create at least this one object, and then, we could take it from there. Or else we'll keep it something very simple. I'll show you how do you download those different layers and stuff, and we'll just go from there. Well, that's about it, guys. And again, I apologize. I know we started a little late, and that was all on me. I'm so sorry. I kind of missed the notification, and then sorry, Anushka, you had to call me, but I had to take care of something for 5 minutes after that. So I know we started 10 minutes later. I really apologize for that. But I hope that all of you got some practical insights into how NFTs are being leveraged right now outside of just the art world, right? Especially with the deep dive we did on all the real estate use case. And I hope you guys are also prepped up on understanding, like, what to expect for next week and what will be covered as part of the Gen AI workshop, as part of the generative art workshop. Anushka, you want to add something about Canva?
Yeah, so I just put in the chat that Girls in Tech YouTube channel, Girls in Tech South Africa YouTube channel has a how-to set of videos for how to use Canva if anybody needs to learn how to use Canva. It's quite simple. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to next week, Soniya. Thanks so much for taking more time of yours to, get all the way to 9:20 here in South Africa. And thanks to all of you on the line that's still there. Thanks for joining us. And I think like next week is where the rubber hits the road. So play around with some of the tools if you have time so that we can start seeing what our art collections could look like. Thanks, Soniya. Thanks so much.